Dust on the truck bed, mile after mile. Fields stretch out wide like they got a mind of their own. Red sign at the hall, coffee gone cold. Everybody talking with a fire in their bones. Hear that rumble now, under boots on the floor. October is coming and we want something more. October 19th, we're standing up. October 19th, we've had enough. Alberta singing loud, let the whole world hear. October 19th, freedom's here. Hard hats on hooks, checks run thin, hands on the ledger and the same old grin. From the shop to the rig, from the barn to the street, people keep asking, what do we believe? Hear that rumble now, under boots on the floor. October is coming and we want something more. October 19th, we're standing up. October 19th, we've had enough. Alberta singing loud, let the whole world hear. October 19th, freedom's here. Maybe you call it a break, maybe you call it a line, but when the lights go red, we won't waste our time. October 19th, we're standing up. October 19th, we've had enough. Alberta singing loud, let the whole world hear. October 19th, freedom's here. Midnight on the rooftop, old flag in my hands, ancient lion on the canvas, facing steel and desert sand. They try to paint our story over with the blacked out lies and chains, but under every burned out poster I still hear our father's names. Persia will rise, I swear it. Hear that echo in my bones. From Shiraz streets to the Caspian stones, we're breaking their walls. We bear dark for the dancers in silence, keeping rhythm in their hearts. Hey, for the brothers in prisons, carving dates into the stone. You are not forgotten, you are not alone. Pressure will rise, I swear it. Hear that echo in my bones. From terror roofs to the ancient thrones. We're breaking their walls, we bear it. Every tear, every battle cry. You can cage your body, but the soul won't die. Pressure will rise. Oh, Persia will rise. We stand together till the falcon flies.
Good morning. Welcome to the NPC show. Deprogramming the world one NPC at a time. I'm your host Frank. Today is was it Tuesday? Tuesday, July 28, 2026. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are having a great week so far. What are we looking at here? Okay, there we are. Yes, how you doing, guys? Good morning. Good morning, Bendy. Fearless Patriot, good to see you. Barry, Josie, good to see you. David Store, thank you for the donation, by the way. I just saw that. Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Hope you had a great. He went to go see Mr. Trump speak yesterday, over in Michigan. Yeah, did you catch the drag racing as well? I heard there was some of that going on, but I don't know if that's what was going on where you were sitting. But yeah, he did get to watch some drag racing out there in Michigan. So good stuff. Hello, F. Rodriguez. Hello, Christian Moore. Good to see you. Velma, Lisa, Rafterman, Polly. Good to see you. Steven, Lisa, Patriot626, Sherry, Chaos, Joshua. Good to see you, Joshua. Iron Privateer, Sherry, Rodney. Good to see all of you. Hello to people over on the. Thank you, Josie, for gifting a subscription over on Rumble. Look at that. Congratulations to Dixie Sen for receiving said gifted membership. You will be able to hang out on Rumble Premium the next time I do one of those. Probably going to be like August 1st or something, like August 1st or 2nd. Probably the 1st or 2nd. Yeah, one of the two. It's going to be on the weekend. Hello, Josie, Dixie, double Luke Soldier. I'm not sure what that is, but anyways, hello, Terry. Good to see you. Good morning. Hello, Campbell. Jillian, good to see you. Good morning, dear. Hello to everyone over on Foxhole. We got Josie and Stephanie Sprague. Good to see all of you. So not too long of a show, and actually post-show watch party. Let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you actually want to watch the funeral stuff for Lindsey Graham. I can put that on after we're done here. Put a 0 if you don't like. Yeah, if you're just like, nah, I don't. We don't care. And then if not, then we'll just go straight to Rumble and we'll do our watch party. We got an episode of Asian Women Are Awful, followed by an episode of Joshua. He's talking about the Chinese regime spending $100 million to influence America. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we probably will do. Damn it! Yeah, you know we can do all of it. We have time today. Well, after Joshua, we'll do the curling show. We skipped it yesterday because there was so many other things going on. So we skipped it yesterday. We're supposed to do that every Monday. So we will watch a round of curling over on the curling show. Links in the description on YouTube if you're wondering what it is. Lots of zeros. David Storrs says 1. We will watch it then because David Storrs is a daily contributor. And what David Storrs wants, he gets. There we go. So all of that's going to get pushed out to later. I probably should have recorded it. Let me look for it actually now that we got a request for it. Let's see. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Let me look for. Let me mute that real quick. Let me see if I can somehow. I think we're able to. Come on, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, really? Is that really? I guess that's being watched in Kansas, right, Mary? Let me see real quick. I think I can back record it with Mary's awesome subscription. Oh, come on, really? There's nothing here. Do I have to go to C-SPAN? Is that what it is? Yeah, I think I do have to go to C-SPAN for it. Yeah, it's not on C-SPAN. Oh, that's the NBC. C-SPAN. This night mode sucks, man. I swear to God. I'm telling you, all these big companies, they're asleep at the wheel. They're asleep at the wheel. I'm telling you. The small companies, Foxhole, they get it right. You go to the website, the night mode works perfectly fine. You go to DirecTV with a multi-billion-dollar contract, multi-billion-dollar budget. No, you put dark mode on, all their logos are still black. There's not even a white border around it. Even I do that. You guys ever see my emojis, my membership? Well, if you have a membership, you can use these custom emojis. Look at this. Look at this. Even the look at the even the guillotine. Look at the guillotine. Even in dark mode, you can see it's got a white border around it. You know what I mean? It's not hard, guys. You put a white border around everything. That way, if it's on a black background, you still see it. Look at the bald eagle. Look at the bald eagle. Look how beautiful that bald eagle looks. Huh? Look at that. Where is it? Oh shit, it disappeared here. Let me do this. Let me do a refresh. Yeah, it's a little glitchy sometimes. There you go. There you go. See? See? A bald eagle, mostly black wings and stuff like that. You can still see it. It's not hard. Jeez. I'm telling you, you should see some of these logos. Here, let me show you. Let me show you. Look at this. I'm supposed to be able to see all those logos there. Look at that. Look at this. I don't even know what that is right there. Right here, look at this. This is crime scenes. This says Curiosity. That's Court TV. Yeah. Look at this. I don't know what that is. What the hell is this? Dance Moms right here. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is right there. I'm looking for C-SPAN. CSPA. What is this? Right there. What is that? Cold Case Files. That's a channel. CNBC. Where's C-SPAN? Oh, it's up here. Got C-SPAN. I guess the hyphen's above the A. Anyways, well, that's just telling you. These guys are okay. Funeral service. Got it. What time does it start? 2 Eastern. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, anyways, okay, so we're watching that then. We'll push Joshua back to tomorrow. It's fine. He only does a show every Tuesday, Thursday, anyways. You guys can check it out on his channel directly. Crossroads with Joshua Phillip. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, F. Rodriguez, Diane. Good to see you. Manufacturer Kim. Man, I was because you mentioned it in yesterday's chat. I went and actually watched the Senate chamber yesterday. Crickets. Okay. They keep saying, oh, what is this? Oh, let's pause that. Okay, well, we'll record this then. No, let's just do that. That's it. All right. Cool. Anyways, they're showing highlights of Lindsey Graham. That's kind of cool. I want to see the funny Lindsey Graham. He should have did stand up sometimes, you know. Maybe they did one of those White House Correspondents' Dinner. He should have did one of them roasts. Oh, James Clapper. Okay, hold on. Let's add that. Yeah, great. Thank you. Very reliable. Boy, everything's a mess today, huh? So he did another round of terminations. And then we've got Hex has just fired someone. We will get to that in a jiffy. Ooh. Facility. Oh, okay. No, that guy's long gone. He's just removing his legacy. That's hilarious. She's removing his name from everywhere. That's great. Good morning, Christian. Good morning to Don Kismet. Diane says, I am so disgusted with the Senate and House. Of course, Hawley and Schmidt are on my shit list. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked a lot about Hawley. Hawley, guys, if you're new to the channel, Hawley is worse than Lindsey Graham, man. Holy shit. I was not expecting that. Lindsey Graham has his moments, you know, where he's a little too neocon-y, but right now we need them, right? We're fighting very just wars in a very efficient and effective manner. We're winning them. We're doing it with minimized casualties. We're not just trying to drive the military industrial complex, you know? So things are going great these days, as long as we got a good commander-in-chief doing the right thing, right? But boy, I was typing to her in DMs. We were both watching the Senate chamber. It is a disgrace in there. It is a disgrace. It is mostly crickets. Every once in a while, you get like someone doing a speech or whatever, but it's mostly just like waiting for shuffling paperwork. You know, that's all you hear. That's all you hear without the music, like this. Here, just like I would say about 60 to 70% of the time, that's what you hear in the Senate chamber. It is shameful. Hawley's only good for getting his 2 to 3 minute Fox or Hannity screen time. Exactly. If he didn't have his looks, he'd be nothing. He would not be able to get on TV. You know, it seems like, you know, like a lot of rhinos leave. Like, you remember in 2020, was it 2017, 2018, 26 rhinos resigned. They decided they weren't going to run for re-election so that the Democrats can take their seats. There were only 2 that made it on TV, and that was Trey Gowdy and Jason Chaffetz. Again, 2 rhinos, but again, 2 of the less ugly rhinos, so that they got to be on TV. Now, Hawley, if he looked like Lindsey Graham, he wouldn't be on TV so much, right? Yeah. I'm telling you, Pam Bondi, too, same thing. If Pam Bondi looked like more like Kat Kamek, she wouldn't be on TV, ever. She wouldn't get all that, the spotlight and all that stuff. Anyways. Ooh, flammy. All right. Let's get going, guys. First story of the day: the Feeding Our Future fraudster. Should add the letter A at the beginning of this. All right. A Feeding the Future fraudster got 10 years for brazenly trying to buy out a jury. Yeah. They tried to pay him $120,000 to bribe a jury, and that triggered the arrest of all 7 trial defendants. Yeah, I'm not sure who offered the bribe. The ringleader, sentenced to 10 years for attempting to purchase a non-guilty verdict from a staggering $120,000 cash bribe. Should have offered more. Abdizi Sharif Farah, who's 37 years old. I don't know who that. I can't tell if this is a guy's name or a girl's name. I just know that whoever it is the person who worships a pedo, just based on the name there. His role in a brazen plot to bribe a federal juror during the 2024 fraud trial. Wow, 2024 fraud trial. So this is during the Biden administration, huh? Farah had already been sentenced to 28 years in prison for helping steal tens of millions of dollars. But stealing so they got an additional 10 years on top of that. When Farah and 6 co-defendants went on trial in April 2024, prosecutors said Farah and his associates researched juror 52 online, obtained her address, surveilled her home, and tracked her movements. On the night of June 2nd, a woman identified by prosecutors as Ladan Mohammed Ali arrived at the juror's home carrying a white Hallmark gift bag stuffed with rolls of $100, $50, and $20 bills. Inside was $120,000 in cash. The woman reportedly handed the bag to one of the juror's relatives and instructed the relative to tell juror 52 to vote not guilty the following day. More money would follow if she helped acquit the defendants. But juror 52 could not be bought. She immediately called 911 and surrendered the cash to law enforcement. That is a great idea, because I tell you what, that could have been a bait bribe, right? Imagine the DOJ sending a Somali fed to your house and saying, vote not guilty. And then you vote not guilty. Bam, jail time. Nah? The attempted payoff sent the federal courthouse into lockdown. All 7 defendants were taken back into custody. Their cell phones were confiscated and the remaining jurors were sequestered. Whatever that means. What does that mean? It's like when you put them aside or whatever. Quarantine them. I don't know. Prosecutors later revealed that Farah factory reset his iPhone after being ordered to surrender it, attempting to destroy messages and video evidence connected to the bribe. 5 defendants were ultimately indicted in the juror bribery conspiracy. All 5 eventually pled guilty. Well, they were already getting 28 years. I don't think another 10 hurt. Anyways, again, Project Restitution needs to happen. Bullshit that they're getting 3 hots in a cot. Most other prisons abroad only feed them once a day. That's all you need. You don't need to eat 3 times a day. That is a luxury that we do in this country for being hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. Right? Remember, we used to not do breakfast. The only reason why breakfast became a thing was because of Post. C.W. Post invented cereal. Well, he didn't invent it. He stole the idea from Kellogg. But he commercialized it, right? That was very smart. Anyways, busted. I'm telling you. Either we do Project Restitution and they will have to work off this debt, and we can reshore our textiles and our Nike, and or how about this? We send them to Eswatini. No, well, these guys go to CCOT. Forgot about that. Yeah, the one, anybody darker than about her goes to CCOT. Anyone lighter than her goes to Eswatini. It makes it more fun, and then we should live stream it. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd make a lot of money. Next story. I'll volunteer. I'll travel out there. I would not mind living in El Salvador and like live streaming. Obviously from the other side of the bars, you know. Because you know how some of these guys feel about young, sexy Asian boys, right? Anyways, next story. A Michigan woman pled guilty to billing Medicare for psychotherapy services that were never provided to residents of her adult daycare center. Adult daycare center? What do you babysit retarded adults or what? What is that for? An adult daycare center. Why can't I sign up for something like that? I don't understand. Can I just open a daycare in my own home and just provide for myself in my adult daycare with one client? Can we do that? I won't overbill. I'll bill for just one person. I am pretty retarded. You know? I think I should qualify. Yeah? No? Put a 1 in the chat if you would approve of me doing that. Just me, not all of us. Just me. And then I can stream, I don't have to worry about my rent. Anyways, fraud division remains laser focused on I got it. I guess so. Anyways, Medicaid fraud. Next story. Ron Johnson is livid at Fauci. Yeah, Ron Johnson's the real senator who's been fighting to expose a lot of this medical bullshit. He was the first senator to bring aboard McCulloch, Malone, all those good doctors that got deplatformed, right? And have them discuss, in a panel. By the way, a panel that he couldn't even stream on YouTube. He had to do it on Rumble because he would have gotten banned from YouTube for it. Because YouTube is filled with doctors, right, who know what's medical fact and fiction. And that's why they are allowed to make medical decisions for all of us. I'm telling you, every jab injury out there should be billed to YouTube and Google and Alphabet, okay, for censoring such vital medical information. Otherwise, they might have heard about it. You know, I certainly would have talked about it more if I wasn't at threat of being banned. Anyway, so he's got something to say. Here we go.
Lied about that to Congress. He knew about Ralph Baerk. He knew about Peter Daszak. He knew about the labs in China. So he was fully aware of this. I think all of his lies were basically a massive cover-up of his involvement in the creation of the coronavirus to create a pandemic. Then, once that pandemic began, he focused everything on a vaccine. Not a vaccine, it's really an experimental gene therapy. Okay, sabotage early treatment, whether it's hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, these cheap generic drugs. Instead, push remdesivir, which, by the way, nurses call it run, death is near. It knocks out your kidney. So just about everything he did leading up to the creation of the coronavirus, his funding of the research that I think resulted in it, the devastating impact in the shutdowns, masking. You ever see a little child wear a mask and yet they had to wear those masks, set back their learning? I mean, the devastation of our response, our miserably failed response, largely falls on the shoulders of Anthony Fauci and the lies he told and his hubris.
Yeah, Senator, he talks about...
Oh, good stuff. He also had more to say. He also talked about Fauci in his diary actually mentioned that he had a pulmonary infarction months after taking the Rona jab, and he told no one about it. First of all, I'm surprised you took it. I thought you were a part of the club. I thought this was like your operation. You didn't get the special batch that the Pfizer employees got? That's weird. I find that weird.
Look, we're going to go through them thoroughly. Combine them with the 11 million pages we got, with what we found about how FDA knew of the fact that their algorithm was going to mask safety signals. They saw the safety signals. By the way, one of them was pulmonary infarction, which 5 months later, apparently Anthony Fauci had a pulmonary infarction, told no one. I'll ask him, did you suspect that the COVID injections caused your pulmonary infarction. Maybe you should have warned the American public about these things. So again, FDA knew, he knew, the safety signals were screaming at them. We had something like 40 to 50,000 reports to VAERS prior to 2021. We had over 1 million reports submitted to VAERS in 2021 after the injection. There were 21,000 deaths, and they saw no safety signals. So no, there's a lot to be, he needs to be held accountable for.
It's going to be a big hearing.
Yes, it will be. We'll be
Thanks,
watching.
Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
That hearing is tomorrow, by the way. It is very early morning, so I will not be streaming it live. What we will do is do the regular news show at the regular time, and then after that, we will watch it on Rewind. But we will skip all the Democrat questions because they just lie. You know, they'll be like, "Oh, safe and secure, most effective and safe and effective." Da, 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 da. They're gonna justify all of Biden's lockdown policies and jab mandates and things like that. So we generally skip the Democrats that they literally just lie all day. All right? So we'll do that tomorrow. Next story. President Trump says he got fed up with Fauci as stunning new diary entries confirm he lied to the public and covered up his own jab injuries. Yeah, Trump made a phone call to Fox this morning. I'm still trying to find that little interview. Here we go.
If you remember early on when it first came, I always said it came from the Wuhan labs. I never changed my tune on that. I think he said something different. He was a much bigger player in the Biden administration. I grew tired of him. He was... You remember that, he wanted to close everything down. I allowed it to be up to the governors, and most or many of the Republican governors didn't want to close. And being somewhat of a federalist, the federalist theory is let the governors make the decision, and we let them. The blue states were mostly closed, and the red states were open, or they started to open very fast. So the Republicans actually did a very, very good job having to do with that. And we did a great job with Operation Warp Speed. I never got the credit that we should have gotten. I got a lot of credit for a lot of things, to be honest. The military, the rebuilding, all the things we've done. The economy, with the best economy in the history of our country in my first term.
You should probably stop talking about that.
This is going to be better. As soon as this little situation gets worked out, I believe it's going to be better. It already is better. We're hitting... Just today, we're hitting new stock market highs every single day. We're up to almost 80 of them, 80 days in a year and a half. 80 days hit new stock market.
Yeah. Next story. Oh, yeah, the more diary bombshell. Apparently, Obama was the person who coached Fauci on Beaglegate. You know, when he selected beagles because of their kind nature. Even when you do harm to it, they don't fight back. And he told Fauci, hey, if you take these beagles, you put their head in this little net here, and you get the flies that lay eggs in their skin. Yeah, you can do some cool experiments. Yeah, you can feel real good about yourself. You could finally feel taller than 5'6". So apparently Obama was the one who coached him about this, about doing it abroad, so that he's not violating any animal cruelty laws in America. And that's why these projects, these experiments in particular, by the way, if you've ever seen video of him doing these experiments, he's throwing these dogs into these cages and whatnot. Awful. And for what? What was it for? Well, what did you learn from it? Did you have a write-up about any of this? Anyway, so that was coached by Obama. So all you Obama voting dog lovers, shame on you. A bunch of beagles got tortured because of you, because you voted for this Manchurian candidate. Huh? Should be ashamed of yourself. Awful, awful. Next story. Speaking of Islamists, Ugandan Mayor Mamdani is facing outrage for publicly posting a searchable database of wealthy property owners. Yeah. How is this legal? How is it legal that he just can put out a database of here's all the people you want to fuck with. They live here, 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 and here. How is that legal? How has he not been arrested for this?
Because if you own property in his town, he knows exactly where you live. The city just posted a searchable list of every homeowner on the hook for his new tax. Names, addresses, 30,000 of them. A socialist mayor handing out a Rolodex of the rich in a city that just watched a CEO get gunned down on the sidewalk. Sounds like a hit list. You got a problem with it? Go protest. It's what the city's there for anyway.
I think one of the bedrocks of our city is protest.
it is something that has been a part of what makes our city so special, that New Yorkers can express themselves, whether they are in support or in opposition, no matter on whatever topic.
Protest? The city runs on capitalism and cocktails. Appetizer, because if you own property in his town.
Well, next story. All right, let's do a wheel real quick. Here we go. Let it be known, if you want to be in the chat spreading propaganda, you need a membership, okay? Without a membership, you just have to shush and listen, okay? My chat is not a place for your propaganda, okay? At least buy a membership. Good Lord. But such cheap ass. You guys are Chinese, aren't you? You're Chinese and you're using a translator. Because holy shit, you know, at least the Russians buy memberships. They last for a little bit, you know. Life, we got life. Look at that. Ooh, sucks to be you. Yeah. All right, next story. An insane initiative that would have banned hunting and fishing in Oregon fails to make the November ballot. Yeah, they're going to try to ban fishing, guys. One of the most wildlife recreationally states out there. If you like the outdoors, Oregon is your state, okay? And they're trying to ban that. Yeah, because they want you to be dependent on their government-controlled markets. Yeah, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to follow the footsteps of Mom Donnie. Yeah, by the way, he's not even a first. I think Chicago already has city-funded markets that have all gone under. And it's so stupid, you know? And in the meantime, he's going to be putting, he's not only going to be putting all the local shops out of business, he's going to be drawing a lot of people shopping there from other cities. People from Newark are going to be driving there just to get groceries because it's 30% less. Next story. Oh, you guys remember that incident out in Florida where a football team, a junior football team from high school from Philadelphia went to go play in a tournament in Florida, and then they went to a Dick's Sporting Good and just stole a bunch of stuff, and they all got caught, and then they thought they could just get away with it because that's what they did back home, and then in Florida they got busted. Well, this happened again, except it was a basketball team this time, and they're from the DC area.
Here's our online press release for Friday. If you think back just a few weeks, I said, if you don't take care of your children and keep them under control, then not only are we going to hold them accountable, but we're going to hold you accountable too. Well, here's your sign. This is James Hall, he's 16. Tawan Groover, he's 17. Tavon Hall, he's 17. Toron Farrell, he's 16. And Obi Sheriff, I like that last name, he's 16. They're part of a basketball team. Run It Up. They're from the Washington, D.C. area, primarily. One of them, I think, maybe from Maryland.
It gets worse, guys.
They were here in Central Florida for a basketball tournament, a pro final basketball tournament by Puma. It's called Next Pro Basketball Tournaments. So they fly in, and they are at an Airbnb where their coach is located. So it's late in the evening, and the coach arranges for them to get an Uber to go over to another Airbnb where they're staying. But there's no one there that's an adult yet because their flight ran late out of DC, which is no surprise, by the way. So they were allowed to Uber over by the coach. They got to their Airbnb, and they decided at 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday that they would walk down to the 7-Eleven, bum rush the 7-Eleven on Ronald Reagan Boulevard in Davenport, and start stealing stuff.
You know how much stuff they stole? $36.
And that's just what they
Oh,
did.
it gets worse, guys.
Of course, the sheriff's office was called. We responded and arrested 3 of the 5. And then we tracked down the coach. I want to introduce you to him, the adult.
May I present to you the adult?
Coach Malik Harvey. Coach Malik Harvey was shown pictures of all 5 of the thieves that were stealing. Of course, we had 3 in custody. he denied knowing who the other two were.
Oh, that's why he's got a mugshot, guys. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. Listen to what this guy does for a living.
He resisted
Mind you, it's Maryland/Baltimore-ish, DC area, right?
us when he did not cooperate in the investigation, when he directly lied, when he misled us. Well, of course he knew who they were, but he lied to us. Oh, did I tell you that he works for the Department of Juvenile Services
Yeah. Yeah.
in Cheltenham Youth Detention Center in Maryland? That's right. So he works in the criminal justice system, and he lied to us. So another coach, which I want to compliment this lady, Coach Hall, she identified the other two.
So this is when it gets better, and then it gets worse. Well, because it's better. It gets better.
One of them
She's
being
at least
her
honest about something.
son, James.
Yeah. So that turned out to be the son of the coach right there. Yeah. But at least she was honest about it, because she probably knew she was going to get in a lot of trouble if she wasn't, right? Yeah. It's Grady Judge, by the way. He's a great sheriff. This is that sheriff in Florida that says, if someone breaks into your house, shoot them. You'll save us a lot of money. Anyways, so that's that next story. Trump scored a legal victory against his lawsuit against New York Times. New York Times has been trying to throw the case out, have the case thrown out. Judge is like, nah, you definitely got to have this case. You've been lying for years and years and years. So the win there for Trump. Next story. Joe Scarborough goes off on the DNC chair because the Democrat Party's cash crunch. Yeah, remember they had to put the headquarters up as collateral to secure a $16 million loan to for the midterms. Yeah, he's upset about this. Like, to be fair, Scarborough, it's not his fault. It's Donald Trump's fault for shutting down all the fraud, right? Heyo. It is. This is one of those rare times when you can legitimately blame Trump. It is actually his fault. Yeah. Unfortunately, you won't do that because you have to admit that the fraud was going to fund your Democrat campaigns. Huh? Huh? Yeah. Now you know why after all these years the Democrats are so loud politically. It's because they're doing it for a living. They benefited from it directly. Yeah. Oh, that's too long. 6 minutes, really? We're not going to do that. Next story. Bill Pulte, acting DNI, has carried out a 5th round of terminations. Yeah, firing the awful deep staters that are still there. A 5th round, guys. Yeah, they are so, let me tell you, they are, as much as they're dragging their feet about everything else, the Senate yesterday actually advanced him to be voted on the floor, which I believe today they're gaveling in at 5 p.m. And the reason why they're gaveling in so late is because of Lindsey Graham's funeral, but at least they're gaveling in to do something, right? Possibly vote on Jay Clayton. Again, I'm a little sketched about him because during his confirmation hearing, he was saying Biden was duly elected. Sorta. He said something along the lines of, like, yeah, he was sworn into office. Biden was elected. Whether it was true or not, whether it was election fraud or not, he didn't exactly clarify that. But again, it was a confirmation hearing, so he's got to kind of have to say whatever he has to get confirmed, right? Yesterday, he was advanced into the floor to be voted on, 51 votes. Okay, so even if one person who voted backs out, we still have a tiebreaker, J.D. Vance, to get Jay Clayton in there. I hope he's going to be as good as Bill Pulte was. Then again, Bill Pulte really just carried out terminations, right? Yeah. That's a perfect guy you want to dig into an organization to find all the scammers out there. A guy who's previously done an MLM scam. It's another one right here. But that's the kind of guy you want to find criminals, right? You need a criminal to find a criminal. Sometimes. Next story. Pete Hegseth has removed all mentions of DNI James Clapper from the DNI agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency in DC. Yeah, removed all his plaques and his name and, the James Clapper Hall, blah, 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 things like that, right? All removed. So, good stuff there. Next story. Yesterday, Trump did a rally out in Michigan. And David was there. David Storrs was there. He did a rally out in Michigan to campaign for, what's his name? Mike Rogers. He's the Republican running against this guy. By the way, the primary isn't even done yet. Yeah, Gretchen Whitmer endorsed someone over him, so the primary hasn't even happened yet. But Mike Rogers is apparently leading him by 10 points. And this is following Trump's endorsement. Now, the poll was released today, which means it probably wasn't done after this rally here. So the rally should help even more. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for gracing your presence here at the General Motors facility and bringing jobs back. Yeah, you bet. Imagine if, Mr. President, you have a senator that cares about much about manufacturing, especially in Michigan, than you do. That's a change we absolutely need. And when I get back there, Mr. President, I promise you this. I will work with you to protect our families, protect our freedoms, protect our factories, protect our finances. And when I get back there, Mr. President, if you haven't gotten it done, we're going to pass the SAVE Act. Save America. God bless you.
Good stuff. Real quick, before we move on to that, let's go check this out real quick. There's apparently a new poll, favorability poll for Democrats. It's actually down 25 points. Down 25 points versus the 2018 midterms. Wow. So in 2018, their favorability was a +1. Now they're -24. Wow.
Way down there underwater. Take a look at this. Okay, the Democratic Party net favorability. Back in 2018, when Democrats were able to take control of the House, they were actually on the plus side of the ledger. They were actually in positive territory at +1 point. Look now in 2026. We're not just talking down there underneath the Potomac. We're talking down there with the Titanic. We're talking 24 points underwater. And this is just the party overall. This isn't the congressional leadership. This is the party. The party. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible brand. Terrible. I want to almost get my Charles Barkley. Terrible, terrible. I can't even do a Charles Barkley. But the bottom line is it's absolutely terrible. Now, what is the reasons? Why is the Wait.
Anywho, so good stuff there. Next story. President Trump asked the Supreme Court to step in and uphold his anti-mail-in ballot fraud executive order after an activist judge blocked its enforcement. Okay, so it is going to the Supreme Court. They're gonna have to hear this now, unfortunately, because Trump selected a woman named Amy Coney Barrett, who's terrified of ruling properly, terrified of upholding the Constitution. She's now bending to the left. So again, never pick women for such positions. Okay, the job comes with its risks. You knew that all along and you took the job anyways. Amy Coney Barrett. Now you're begging for security money. So voting left didn't keep you safe, huh, Amy Coney Barrett? Anyways, so this is going to be heard now by the Supreme Court. I believe the decision is going to be by August 3rd. Between then and now, Trump wanted to do an injunction, right, to allow them to do these little USPS official serialized election envelopes, right? And that's now on hold. They no longer can do that until that decision is heard and made August 3rd. So between then and now, they can't do this, which is like, okay, so now what happens to these primaries now? You know? So, and by the way, he asked for an injunction to allow this to continue happening until there's a decision made, and Ketanji Brown Jackson blocked it. Yeah. Well, obvious why. I'm telling you, you need to undo Biden's presidency, undo every single judicial appointment he made. Next story. Tuberville is now joining Senator Mike Lee in pledging to block the August recess on the floor until the SAVE Act is passed. Again, I've talked about this briefly yesterday. It only takes one person to block it, so it's good that there's at least 7 of them that are going to be doing this. However, if there's no quorum, which means 51 senators, you cannot vote on anything. And to that I say, any senator that is not there for quorum when we cancel summer break, primary them. Even if it means primarying 45 senators across the next 6 years, primary them. Threaten them. Okay? Hey, you know what you should do, Mr. President? This is what you do. Okay? Tell them you either get the Save America Act through or you are running in 2028. Easy. Okay? And by the way, just because they get the Save America Act passed doesn't mean you're not going to run, okay? Yeah, but not passing it guarantees that you will run again for a third term and wreck their entire deep state apparatus from Russia all the way down to China. All of it. Every country that had anything to do with stealing our elections, gone. Regime changed. Next story. Bill Hagerty is the seventh senator that's going to be joining Mike Lee to block the August recess. That's supposed to start on August 8th. Hopefully we can get that canceled until the Save America Act is passed. Next story. Senator Thune says that this is what he says. He says he's going to consider canceling August recess. Based on coming discussions with Mike Lee, Anna Luna's already based on what she's hearing, the ramblings, she says that he's not serious about it. He's hiding behind a filibuster, and he has no plan on bringing the Save America Act to the floor. That's what she had to say. This was after he said he's going to consider that. So he's not a serious consideration. He said, in fact, he's so insincere about it. He went on Fox to do a media tour to talk about how, we can't do this and da 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 da. So he says the Save America Act likely needs to be passed under reconciliation. Yeah, that means we have a path, right? Can we get that done then? Can you stop listening to your Senate parliamentarian, which is an advisory role? She does not have the power to rip this stuff out. You're the one doing it. Can you just let the vote happen? Can you do that? By the way, you know what I didn't realize this whole time? We don't actually have John Cornyn. John Cornyn has been against Trump in every single thing because he got primaried already. But he's still in office for the rest of this year. Yeah. So he did his little media tour trying to justify. And by the way, he also talks about how the talking filibuster has been used in a century, which is a lie.
Well, and I think probably the best path to success is through budget reconciliation. And we can't do everything in budget reconciliation, but we can do parts of it. The one thing about the talking filibuster, and it hasn't been used in something like 100 years, people point to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but that actually was done under regular order. They invoked cloture, passed it that way. But you turn control of the floor over to the Democrats. It's not only unlimited debate, it's unlimited amendments. And the Democrats will have a long list of amendments. And so every time they get an amendment, get it considered, gets disposed of, the clock resets. Every Democrat can give 2 hours of speeches, so that's 47, or times 2, 94 hours of speeches. And then every time you have a vote on an amendment, you go back, start all over again. So the Democrats, this is something that they're salivating over the opportunity to have as a talking filibuster. So that isn't the best path in my view. And frankly, I don't think we probably have the votes in the Senate among Republicans even to get on a talking filibuster. But I do think we have a possibility through budget reconciliation to get some of this done.
If you could go either way, are you as leader, are you trying to work with the rest of the Senate to get it done?
We are, and I think we've had it up now. It was a pending business in the Senate for over 2 weeks, late February, early March. We had 5 votes on it. We voted on photo ID. We voted on photo ID and citizenship to register. We voted on the entire SAVE Act 2 different times, and we also voted on no boys and girls sport. So we've had 5 votes, portions of or all of the Save America Act. The problem we have is we have no Democrats. The Democrats block voted against it, in spite of the fact that there are at least a dozen Democrats, and I have the quotes, who have come out publicly and said they're for photo ID. But when they actually got a chance to put up or shut up on the floor of the Senate, they all voted no.
Let's talk about the radical.
Yeah. Mike Lee calls him out on it and says, Mike Lee just corrected Thune, claiming that the talking filibuster will not work for the Save America Act. Lee says the talking filibuster was used effectively to break the weeks-long filibuster mounted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Mounted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Yeah, that was in addition to the original, they added more to the Civil Rights Act, and that was actually a Republican that the Democrats were trying to block it. So again, Thune is full of shit. He's lying. He's gonna go on his little media tour to justify himself. No one's buying it. Next story. Bill Pulte posted this today. I wish you hire a better social media manager, because now I got to read this. Zoomed in. Let's see. He released this. This is about election stuff. Oh, great. No. Let's do that. There we go. There we go. All right. It's titled Vulnerabilities in the 2020 Election Infrastructure. Okay. Key takeaway, scope notes. This memo assesses the potential impact of cyber operations against U.S. election infrastructure for the 2020 presidential election, including the voting process and integrity of results. It does not assess adversary intentions of views of U.S. vulnerabilities. And then he says here, we assess that at least Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea have the capability to access and potentially manipulate data in the U.S. election-related computer systems, but we do not know whether they have specific plans to interfere with the functioning of these systems. We assess the centralized election-related data repositories such as voter regulations, databases, poll books, and official election websites are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use access to these systems to disrupt election processes. Systems that tabulate, transmit, or display election results are vulnerable to localized exploitation, but would be difficult to manipulate on a wide enough scale to alter the election outcome. Remember, a lot of these machines were found to be connected to Wi-Fi. Okay? They're not supposed to be on the internet. Adversary claims of manipulation could be difficult to disprove and could undermine public confidence in election results. And it says here, we judge the U.S. adversaries, including a minimum Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, as well as non-state groups, had the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure for the 2020 presidential election. Adversaries gaining access to U.S. election-related systems could disrupt the voting process, steal sensitive data, and undermine confidence in the election results. China did, after all, steal 220 million voter records, right? He says here, but we do not know whether any of them have specific plans to manipulate. Okay, this side seems like a repeat of that side. I don't know why there's two columns of that. But anyways, that's what Bill Pulte posted. Thank you very much, Bill Pulte, acting DNI. Telling you, he's been doing pretty good. I wish Trump would have just appointed this guy. You know. Next story. Iran, despite the fact that there's a pause in attacks, has made threats to assassinate Trump's family now. So not just Trump, but Melania and Barron. Yeah, this is how serious these guys are about peace, by the way. By the way, I did find the full interview with Trump and Fox this morning on the telephone. It's like a 20-minute interview where he talks about what's going on with Iran. So we're going to watch the whole thing after this, before Lindsey Graham's funeral, okay?
Some of these commitments, it's about following through on the deal.
And Trey, you know, if the Iranians are serious about, you know, let's make a deal, why would the Iran state-linked media put out that very disturbing propaganda video about the president and his family yesterday?
You know, it's interesting. The Iranians say they want to make a deal, and they still threaten the life of President Trump, his family, and top cabinet officials. They also launch missiles at the countries they claim to be their allies in the Gulf, and then talk about things like death to America and death to Israel. And so again, this is going to be about a verifiable agreement, and an agreement that will actually be adhered to by the Iranian regime. And one of the challenges here for the Trump administration is the negotiators that they're dealing with. You have some of these relatively more moderate voices, like Mohammad Khalibaf, the country's parliament speaker, and Abbas Araghchi, the country's foreign minister. And while they can say one thing at the negotiating table, you could have these top IRGC officials who want to continue the war against the United States and demand control of over the Strait of Hormuz. And again, I think this speaks to why the U.S. military is continuing their buildup across the region, and why the president, just as recently as yesterday, said he is open to strong military action if a deal isn't reached. And so these will be tense days ahead, and the United States is preparing both on offense and on defense if these new negotiations collapse.
All right, give me a second. Let's step back from Iran real quick, because something just popped up, election related. Governor Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey just announced that she will block the release of 6,000 plus non-citizens to the Trump admin who were illegally registered to vote. Oh, are you protecting them from deportation? Is that what you're doing? Huh. It sounds like it sounds like the election center in New Jersey needs to be raided by feds. Huh? Next story. Back to Iran. President Trump says he could obliterate Iran's bridges in 1 hour and the power plants in 1 day. And he told Iran to their faces, if no deal is made, power plant and bridge day will happen. Good stuff.
Because I have many
we'll watch this when we're going to watch the whole speech, the whole interview live. The the whole 20-minute when we get at the end of the show. Okay, here, give me 1 second. He also says that America will bomb Iran's nuclear pickaxe mountain if no deal is made. By the way, you know what I heard about Pickaxe Mountain? The reason why they picked it is because it is like a granite mountain. So they probably wasted a lot of bits drilling through that crap just to be able to bury this underneath granite. But it's not like we don't have the ability to get through that. Next story. We'll hear them talk about that over on the full interview. Iran is discussing with Oman about the Hormuz Strait. Look at that. They're gonna try to toll it again. They're gonna start charging fees. Yeah, and they're talking with Saudi Arabia as well. I don't think this is true. Saudi Arabia would not be interested in tolling this with them. What are they talking about? I don't know why they're talking about it, but let's see. Held separate phone calls Strait of Hormuz. During the calls, they stressed the need to strengthen cooperation and advance joint diplomatic efforts to establish stability. No. We don't need you for any sort of security here, okay? Saudi Arabia will pay the United States a fee to secure this for them, this passageway. That's how it's going to be done, okay? Every time we have to fire a missile to disable your rockets, they're going to pay us. Every ship that comes through this, they're going to pay us. That's what's going to happen. These guys they're delusional. They're delusional. The last time you said you won the war, Trump started attacking you again. Do you want more of that? We're in control. Sure you are. Yeah, we totally believe that. How many ships have we stolen of yours? Like 6 already? The Houthis say that they want, should I say the Yemenis? The Yemenis say they want to copy Iranians moving to Hormuz, meaning they want to block it and put mines everywhere, and where they only they know where the mines are, and then they want to charge fees for it. So again, they keep trying to distinctify that it's the Houthis. No, if they're living in Yemen, they're Yemenis people. Okay, I don't care if they're from Iran. Okay, Yemen allows them to be there. It's on them. Okay, if you can't handle being a country, maybe surrender your land to Saudi Arabia and they will police it for you. We don't see Houthis in Saudi Arabia, do we? Tired of these fake countries, man. I'm telling you, they're nothing but trouble for the rest of the world. Next story. Somali pirates are back. They are hijacking cargo ships in the Horn of Africa, the southern tip. Yeah, they're back, guys. Can we get some more double tapping going on, please, Mr. Hegseth? Huh? Would it be too much trouble to get an aircraft carrier out there? How about this? Why don't we contract the Russian military to do it? I don't think they're on the same side, are they? Yeah, you guys know that whenever Russians see Somali pirates, they use them as target practice. They'll actually just shoot at them. They don't care that there's no war. They're pirates. They're of no nationality. Okay, unless Somalia wants to take credit for them, then we'll have a reason to invade Somalia, right? Again, I don't know why Saudi Arabia signed a security deal with Somalia. You should have let Somaliland clear it out, but they're trying to minimize Israeli influence or something like that. Next story. Now you got terrorists stealing your ships. Next story. In Canada, outside of Toronto, you remember that U.S. consulate where someone was shooting at and trying to blow up and stuff like that, and then the Canadians went to go investigate it, and then one of these Sand Mexicans that they were investigating killed a cop. Well, because of that, the cops stopped investigating, and because he stopped investigating it, they're doing it again. More shots fired at the U.S. consulate in Canada. Yeah. Hey, I got a question. Why do we even have a U.S. consulate there? We don't want them here. How about we just shut them down since they cannot keep us safe there? Right? Why is it even open? If they refuse to keep a safe street, for safe community for our citizens to live in, just shut it down. Forget about it. Okay? We don't need that open. We don't need to be paying taxes for them to come visit us. Anyways, Trump also chimed in about Canada, about the USMCA trade agreement. He's saying tariffs work. And he also says, I don't care. I mean, I don't really want to. I'd rather be independent. Here's the thing. Mexico and Canada need us. We don't need them. He's talking about the USMCA trade deal. That, again, had an expiration date, and he's just not going to renew it. So we'll hear more about that when we watch the full interview over on Fox. Give me a second. Next story. We're almost done here. The U.S. is beginning to review forces presence in Europe. Look at that. It's a stepping stone for us getting out of there, guys. Now, remember, Trump earlier this year announced that he told the NATO last year that they needed to be taking a front seat in driving their own national defense, okay, by the end of this year, or we're out. Okay, he said that earlier this year, and then apparently Hegseth asked someone to begin a review of U.S. presence in Europe, and that review is starting this week. The U.S. began reviewing its military presence in Europe on Monday, after the Defense Secretary Hegseth told his NATO counterparts last month that Washington was planning such an analysis. It says here, as Secretary Hegseth laid out then, this will be a real review designed to ensure that NATO is moving fast and irreversibly towards Europe, taking primary responsibility for its conventional defense. Yes, we are not sending our children to die for Islamists. We're not doing it. You all can do it. We're not doing it, okay? He also says the outcome of this review will be an acceleration of NATO's transition to a stronger, more equitable, and sustainable alliance. Yes, considering they're not helping us with our operations, we shouldn't be helping them with theirs. President Trump has repeatedly lashed out against European allies over their response to his war in Iran, including the refusal to allow U.S. forces to use their bases during the start of the conflict. Yeah, exactly. And also they're not helping in any other way. Not even one ship, guys. Only after we blew up all the rockets that they're like, oh, okay, we'll help you. We want to collect tolls. We want to collect fees. Yeah. Hegseth also threatened to reduce Washington's NATO spending unless allies reach defense spending targets. Washington has been clear that that it wants NATO allies on the continent to take over primary responsibility, and I would add funding for their own conventional defenses as U.S. focus shifts towards China. As part of that process, the Pentagon has already told allies it's reducing the number of assets worldwide that makes available for NATO operations. So this is a start of us getting out of there. We've already removed, I think, a total of 6,000 out of like 50,000 in Germany. Unfortunately, we added 5,000 to Poland. Like, I don't know why are we doing that? So the German troops can kick back and loiter back in Munich, or what? This is terrible. We have better things to do. We gotta go to Nigeria. We gotta knock out Nigeria. We gotta knock out Nicaragua. We gotta knock over Ecuador. We gotta knock over Colombia. We gotta take over the White House. Anyways, next story. Myanmar approves the D penalty for cyber scam offenses. Holy crap. Yeah. And by the way, what this is specifically for is because the reason why is they recently got caught with those cyber scam centers. Okay, what the CCP does is they go to their neighboring countries, they enslave people, and they force them to steal Bitcoin from your grandmas out here in Florida and in America, wherever there's some Bitcoin machines. Okay, and we've already raided a few of these and seized the Bitcoin. We did it in Cambodia. The one in Myanmar, I believe, was done by Thailand. But this is what they're doing. They're enslaving people, and just like David E. Taylor, the fake pastor in America, who enslaves people and makes them grift for money for his organization. Okay, they are doing that there. But I got a question. Why is it just for cyber scam offenses? Do you have slaves that do non-cyber scam offenses that you don't want to get in trouble? Yeah. By the way, this is specifically for the people who are enslaving the people doing cyber scam offenses. I don't think the people actually doing it will get the D penalty. I don't know. They might get in trouble. I don't know. That's a tough one, right? That's a tough one because it's like, let's say they're not slaves and they're all just friends. They're doing cyber scams or crypto scams, right? And then when they get caught, the leader the people on the bottom can just be like, oh yeah, we're all slaves. They enslaved all of us. And then only one person gets in trouble. Right? Now, if you give them the D penalty, obviously they're going to be like, no, they're not. We're all friends. Look, we all exchange the dick pics together. We all know each other. We're friends. Yeah? So Myanmar's stepping that up. Huh? Taiwan just arrested someone from NVIDIA. Taiwan detained an NVIDIA worker because of a chip smuggling probe. Yeah. Which is odd because I believe we've lifted those those sanctions. They can buy the H200s now, but I guess this is for offenses prior to the it getting lifted, right? Because they were supposed to get the H100s and H200s. We were supposed to get an edge in this AI military boost, but no, they've had it all along. They've had these chips being smuggled to them, and then by the way, if they're not smuggling chips, they're going to be smuggling something else. These black markets, that's what they do. That's what triads do. They're always looking for something to exploit. They love black markets. They love it when things get criminalized because they get to exploit it to make money, right? So 7 held. Interesting. So 7 people got arrested? I thought it was just 1. Wow. Interesting. Accused of forging documents to ship 50 Supermicro servers to China. Oh, so these are going from Taiwan to China. That's why Taiwan is involved in this. Next story. Oh, look at this. Oh, wait, give me a second for that to go away. This is a house that fell over. That is the car that it fell on. Yeah, this is a house that was being shipped. They were relocating a house, and it fell off of the truck and onto a bunch of people on a road. And so now they're having to chop this house apart to save the people underneath there. Yeah. What a mess, huh? What a mess. See, how's it look? Chopping the house, chopping the house, chopping the house. Oh, okay, so it's a minute and 20 of the same stuff. Oh, it's just the attic is insulated, huh? Anyways, okay, we got more stuff to watch. We've got Trump's interview with Fox from this morning where he talks a lot about Iran, the USMCA, and also a little bit about Lindsey Graham. Today is his funeral. We're going to watch that, but before we do that, guys, remember I got other channels to follow, Frank's Show Clips as well as Frank's Funny Shorts. Please give those a follow. Hype the videos on that channel, please. Frank's Show Clips. You only get 3 hypes per week, and if you hype a video on a small channel, it gets more points. So don't hype videos here, hype videos over there, please. Thank you very much. Also, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, subscribe to on Patreon, or ways you can support the channel, or you can be like Sherry and Close Call, who have memberships. It helps keep the channel alive. It's only $3 a month. You can also do that on Rumble, like Josie and Jillian. Yeah, it's $5 a month there. You get access to our Rumble Premium Hangouts. You can also do that on Foxhole. If you go on Foxhole, you get a cool tag next to your name that says Frank's Hens. Yeah. Anyways, thank y'all for being here. Give me a second to start this over here. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to follow it up with the Lindsey Graham's funeral stuff. Okay, here we go.
On this Tuesday morning, we are joined by phone with our President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you so much for coming on. We know that you're meeting with Netanyahu and with Zelensky this morning. We saw them flying in yesterday. They're here because of Lindsey Graham's funeral. And Lindsey was your friend. He's a critical piece of our country for many reasons, but mainly for his relationship with world leaders. How are you feeling about losing your friend, and where do we go from here?
Well, he was a great guy. He was a great politician, actually. People don't understand. He really was. He was able to bring people together. If I needed a Democrat, he could usually produce that Democrat if I had to have him in an emergency. He was a great politician and a great gentleman.
Give me 1 second. Let me do one live read. This will not be long. Here we go. You probably know Romo's growing fast and is not slowing down. More creators, more content, and a platform that's actually putting users and free speech first. And if you're watching here regularly, that's a way to upgrade your entire experience. Right now, Rumble's running a limited time summer sale on Rumble Premium, and it's the lowest price they've ever offered. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you actually came for. Plus, unlock exclusive content from top creators like Steven Crowder, Dr. Disrespect, and myself. Special live events and more you won't see anywhere else. Here's the deal. Normally, Rumble Premium is $99 a year, but during the summer sale, you can lock it in for just $69 per year for life. Not just 1 year. Every year you stay subscribed, you keep that $69 rate. No promo code, no extra steps. Just go to rumble.com/premium and the summer sale price is already applied. That's rumble.com/premium to lock in the lowest price Rumble ever offered. Ad-free exclusive content and a price that never goes back up, but only if you grab it before the summer sale and scan the QR code on the screen, or go to Rumble. My link's in the description on YouTube. Go to Rumble and look for the link in the description of my stream, okay? All right, here we go.
I got along. You know, we started off a little bit on the rough side because he was campaigning.
Let me restart that. I just restarted it.
This Tuesday morning, we are joined by phone with our President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you so much for coming on. We know that you're meeting with Netanyahu and with Zelensky this morning. We saw them flying in yesterday. They're here because of Lindsey Graham's funeral. And Lindsey was your friend. He's a critical piece of our country for many reasons, but mainly for his relationship with world leaders. How are you feeling about losing your friend, and where do we go from here?
Well, he was a great guy. He was a great politician, actually. People don't understand. He really was. He was able to bring people together. If I needed a Democrat, he could usually produce that Democrat if I had to have him in an emergency. He was a great politician and a great gentleman, and I got along. You know, we started off a little bit on the rough side because he was campaigning in 2016 for the presidency, and we started a little bit rough, but then it got closer and closer, and it really ended up being a great friendship, and it's very hard. He's like, he really became like a member of the family in a sense, and he was just somebody that was very special. You don't have people like that. You don't see them often.
Yeah, and Mr. President, I know that after that rough patch where you were at loggerheads with each other, trying to become the next president, you eventually started patching things up by going golfing. Do you have a story to tell us a little bit about what it was like when it was just the two of you driving around a golf course alone?
Well, he loved golf. He just loved it. He worked hard at it, and it was really a passion of his. And he was getting better all the time. But he was.
Were you teaching him? Were you teaching him how to play golf?
Let me put it this way: he loved it, but he wasn't born to be a golfer. Okay, he was born to be a politician, but not a golfer. But he loved it, and it was great. And we'd talk about mostly politics and talk about things they're doing, and a very powerful force when he got behind something.
And I know he thought golfing with you, it was the most intriguing, fun thing that he could ever do. And he would also mix the perfect things he loved so much. And that was work and fun and being with somebody with great influence like yourself. And I know that on the top of his mind was the war in Iran. I know you're going to be talking about that today with the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And you're going to we hear that you're talking right now with leaders on Iran. But Iran has come out publicly and said, we're not talking to the U.S. We're going to pause as long as they're paused.
We are talking a little while ago because...
So could you tell me who you're talking to, Mr. President?
For some reason, we can be in the midst of a beautiful discussion, and they'll come out and say, we're not talking, or we didn't discuss nuclear. Well, that's all we discussed because they'll never have a nuclear weapon. They understand that. And we have had some very good talks, and very interesting with Lindsey. He was very much a hawk, as you would say, on Iran. And over the last few weeks, I would say that he became like, if you could make a deal, it's better making a deal in this case than just destroying the rest of the country. We've destroyed most of it, frankly. But he was somebody that said it's a good time to make a deal, nice time to make a deal.
What does a good deal look like?
Now, I wouldn't say necessarily he feels that way about Ukraine. He's been very militant about. I mean, Lindsey liked war, to be honest with you, okay? And I said, you're a nice guy. How come you like war so much? He was a guy that liked war. I jokingly say, and there's nothing funny about it, but he's never seen a war that he didn't like. He was very much into that, and for good reason. He felt that way. Some other people feel that way, but he was very much very strong on the military. And I built a great military, and he helped me. We built it during my first term, and we use it now. But I built a great military.
His sister Darlene was interviewed recently. You probably saw that with Sean Hannity. And she said he didn't love war. He loved peace and he loved the end of war. But sometimes war is necessary. You say that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. There are reports now that Netanyahu is going to talk to you about ongoing excavation at Pickaxe Mountain, construction vehicles entering and exiting tunnels, paving new access roads. Satellite imagery and intel indicates that Iran is actively constructing and fortifying Pickaxe Mountain. How will we respond?
Well, I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. I mean, I don't necessarily. We have the finest because of Space Force. We have the greatest cameras in the world focused on. We know exactly what's going on. But no, I heard Bibi announce that. I said, why don't you just tell it to me? Why do you have to announce it to the world? I know exactly what's going on at Pickaxe. It's not a big problem. We took out their nuclear sites, and we'll have to take out Pickaxe if we don't make a deal. If we don't make a deal, we'll take it out very easily.
Right. And so, Mr. President, Netanyahu, as you said, you know exactly what he's going to say. Mr. President, we got to keep this war going. At the same time, I know that there are Republican officials in Washington, D.C. who have an eye on November, and they're going, Mr. President, you got to wrap it up. So you got two different messages. Wrap it up, keep going. Wrap it up, keep going.
Well, I have a third message because I have many Republicans that want me to keep going and do it. I mean, we pounded the hell out of them. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. Their Army's been really badly mortified. So many other, you look at their defense, their air defense, it's gone. All of their radar is gone. Most of their weaponry is gone. Most of their manufacturing is gone. And you look but I have some Republicans said, well, why don't we hit them harder? So, it's like at some point. So you have a lot of competing factions. You have a group of people that wanted to be obliterated in the truest sense of the word. Then you have a group that says, this is actually a good time to make a deal for them. If they don't make a deal, then I go back and I finish the job. But that's going to take them forever to rebuild. Already, it'll take them many years to ever to rebuild. And if I go back and finish up the job, as some people would like, with the bridges, very easy. I could take out most of their bridges in less than an hour. Less than an hour. But, it takes them 10 years to build a bridge. Bridges take the longest, and power plants are second. I can knock out the power plants. Within one day, all of their power plants would be gone. And I let them know that, with negotiations. They said, look, people want me to do that. I think I get almost the same thing out of it as doing it. But the problem is they'll never be able to, I think about 91 million people without power, without bridges, would have to live. And it's a very, very delicate balance. Yeah. So I think we have a very strong position right now. They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. The bridges are going to be gone. Literally in less than, I would say in 2 hours, most of the bridges, the major bridges will all be gone. And the power plants in one day. And, if I can avoid doing that, I'd like to do that. The hardest thing to build is a power plant. The longest thing to build is a bridge. Takes a long time to rebuild and build bridges. And that's what I used to do for a living, construction. It takes years to build these things. And, and knock them out in 1 hour, and it takes many years. It really decimates a country. So those are the two big things. And then there's always the desalinization plants. And who am I hurting there? I'm hurting the people. So I'm not looking to do that. I just want, very simply, they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. And they've agreed to that, essentially. We have to get them to, make it formal. Right. But they've agreed to it.
How do you
and
feel
why
about
wouldn't they? Tell me, why wouldn't they?
Well, look, no one can figure out the Iranians. It's been 50 years. So Pickaxe.
Well, 50 years, you're right about that. And for 50 years, other presidents should have done this job, and they never did anything. Obama actually paid them billions of dollars, the opposite. He thought he could bribe his way into friendship, and they went out and tried to develop nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons from it. So, for 50 years, every single president should have done something, or other countries, you could say, too, not just the United States. It's always the United States. But for 50 years, other presidents, they kept saying 47, 47. So it's really 50 because they've been saying 47 years for 3 years. But for 50 years, other presidents should have done this job. Would have been a lot easier. There would have been less competence. Well, now, when I took out General Soleimani, my first term, that set them back because I think they would have fought in a different manner. I'll tell you what, if he were around, maybe he would have had the nuclear. We stopped the nuclear with the B-2, and I stopped it also when I terminated that horrible deal made by Obama. They call it the Iran nuclear deal. It was the worst, dumbest deal. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you wouldn't have Israel around. Frankly, if I weren't president of the United States, Israel today would not exist.
It's been said by military people, you know better, that for the 14 days that you hit him was relatively surgical. It was focused basically around the strait. But to amp it up, you needed more of your material in the region, and it's arrived. Has Admiral Cooper given you the type of plan that you believe will be effective in essentially destroying their nuclear, stopping their funding of proxies, as well as their ballistic program? Have you seen that on paper?
Well, it's already
Has it
been
convinced you it
mostly
can
done.
work?
Look, we have a blockade up there right now, and only ships that we want to get through. Iran doesn't control the strait. We control the strait. Now, they can drop a couple of mines in there and screw things up, but we control the strait. Our Navy is incredible. Not one ship has gotten to Iran during any time where we had the blockade. So we had the blockade.
Thanks for joining as a member, Bourbon. Thank you. Or thank you for renewing it.
Right. We had the confines of a deal. I set the blockade back, but I didn't take it away. The ships were not
but
far
ships
away.
are not getting through now.
And then I had to bring it back. But no, this is done with the Admiral. He's great. This is all done with the Admiral. He's a great guy. General Raising Cane.
Mr. President, are we right that the no merchant ships are getting through right now, maybe 3 or 4 a day when you need about 100?
The only ones that get through are the ones that we want to get through. They're the only ships that get through, Brian. We have a blockade that's so powerful that nobody can get through. They tried. 3 or 4 of them tried over the last week. But, you know, we opened the blockade because we had the confines of a deal. So we did it. And then we put it back because they broke the deal. They break the deal. We cannot have them break deals anymore.
Mr. President, let's talk about the Fauci diary. Senator Rand Paul released more than 1,000 pages of this private typed diary entries, many of them of Dr. Anthony Fauci during COVID. He was saying one thing in his diary entry, saying something else publicly. For instance, the origin of COVID. He was saying it was from the wet market, not the Wuhan lab. He was writing something different. He was saying he never talked about closing schools. He's writing that he talked to Cuomo and he talked to Gavin Newsom about closing schools in New York and in California. So a tale of two different things, and he's going to be in front of Congress tomorrow testifying. What is your reaction to this? What is your takeaway?
Well, if you remember early on when it first came, I always said it came from the Wuhan labs. I never changed my tune on that. I think he said something different. He was a much bigger player in the Biden administration. I grew tired of him. He was... You remember that, you know, he wanted to close everything down. I allowed it to be up to the governors, and most or many of the Republican governors didn't want to close. And, I, you know, being somewhat of a federalist, the federalist theory is let the governors make the decision, and we let them. The blue states were mostly closed, and the red states were open, or they started to open very fast. So the Republicans actually did a very, very good job having to do with that. And we did a great job with Operation Warp Speed. I never got the credit that we should have gotten. I got a lot of credit for a lot of things, to be honest. The military, the rebuilding, all the things we've done. The economy, with the best economy in the history of our country in my first term. This is going to be better. As soon as this little situation gets worked out, I believe it's going to be better. It already is better. We're hitting, just today, we're hitting new stock market highs every single day. We're up to almost 80 of them, 80 days in a year and a half. 80 days hit new stock market highs. 401ks are the highest they've ever been. So, I mean, we have an amazing economy. And frankly, when this gets done, there'll be nothing to compete. We had the best economy of any president ever in my first term. I believe this is going to blow it away.
Mr. President, you also get credit for Operation Warp Speed, which got a lot of critical stuff that we needed at the time to the American people. In this,
thank you, Steve, for that.
Oh,
Steve,
absolutely.
Thank you. You know, Operation Warp Speed is considered one of the greatest things that anybody has ever seen a president do, and a lot of people say that, but they don't say it publicly, and I appreciate you saying it.
No, you get credit.
And I like your son, okay? I like your son.
You always keep him on his toes, I'll just say that. So, Mr. President, so given the fact that, you know, you were heavily invested because that was at the end of your first term with COVID, you know, in his private journals, he has some very unkind things to say about you. He disagreed with your approach, was different than his.
Because he wanted to close everything down, and I didn't.
Absolutely. But given what you
had
know
I
now...
taken his advice, the whole country would have been closed down, and much of the country was open because I didn't close it down. What I did do, though, is with Operation Warp Speed, is we got things done that nobody's ever seen in terms of all of the gear necessary. And we learned that the cupboards were bare. You know, when I took over, we had none of this. We didn't have the ventilators.
I know.
We didn't have anything. We ended up becoming the #1 ventilator producer, and we were supplying ventilators to other countries by the time we got going. And we did a great job. No, but I was not a believer because he said everybody has to wear a mask. Then he said don't wear a mask. You remember it was a whole thing. Wear them, don't wear them. I said, what are you doing? He started off saying don't wear them. Then he said wear them. Then he said don't wear them. And I lost a lot of respect for him during the period of time. Right. But I inherited him. He's been there since the 1980s. I mean, he was a guy that was there that I inherited. And with time, I didn't mind him. I didn't find him to be bad, you know, personally as a person. But I didn't agree with what he was saying or what he was doing. And when Biden came in, he inherited him, and he gave him a tremendously high position. And then he gave him a pardon.
He did indeed. And, you know, I think we all thought there was a lot of science behind what he was saying and maybe not so much. But, Mr. President, if you would have known then what you know now, would you have fired him?
Well, I would have fired him. But, again, I didn't listen to him. So when he was with Biden, he was like the god. When he was with me, he wasn't even close. And I wasn't very close to him. I dealt with him very little. I didn't agree with many of the things he said. No, he wanted to close up everything. Look at all the states that remained open. Those states remained open. He wanted everything closed. And it just turned out that closing wasn't so good because, you know, it's very interesting. Some of the states that fared the worst in terms of the spread were actually closed. Okay, explain that. Nobody can explain that.
He did more damage than anybody else.
They did a lot of damage in a lot of different ways.
So Mr. President, with the economy, that's going to be your focus. That was your focus yesterday in the midterms in Michigan. Are you worried that the tariffs that you put forward over the last couple of days will hurt the economy as they adjust in bringing manufacturing home?
No, because it's bringing hundreds of billions of dollars. I was at General Motors yesterday. They have the best year. They have the most trucks, the most cars. The tariffs have saved General Motors. What I've done to the auto business, what I've done to the chip business, we have chip companies now building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of chip plants in Arizona, the biggest chip company of its kind in the world. I mean, the biggest company there is in the chip world is building a $400 billion plant. We're going to end up with 40 to 50% of the chip business from nothing in a year and a half from now. No, the tariffs have... I mean, it's a shame that I have to go a harder way for the tariffs because the Supreme Court, in a very close decision, ruled against me. Now I have other ways of doing the same thing, but it's a more cumbersome way of doing it. But the tariffs have made this country a fortune. It made the country rich, and I stopped 8 wars. I would say 5 of them because of tariffs. The threat of tariffs stopped India and Pakistan from going into a nuclear war. The threat of tariffs stopped numerous other countries from going to war. These tariffs, it's the greatest thing, and only the really smart people or the people that are non-political and that get it talk about it. The Democrats know how good it's been. We have the hottest car business. We're right now building more car plants that at any time in our history, Toyota just left Mexico. They're building, they just announced, they're building a $12 billion worth of plants in the United States, all because they want to avoid tariffs. They have no tariffs if they build their product here.
Yeah. So the USMCA, are you looking to update that?
I don't care. I mean, I don't really want to. I'd rather be independent. Here's the thing. Mexico and Canada need us. We don't need them. The deal is important for them. It's not important for us.
Okay, Mr. President, thank you so much. I know you're speaking at Lindsey Graham's funeral this morning. We're going to be carrying that. Our coverage starts at 1 o'clock. Godspeed. I'm sorry for your loss. I know he was a good friend of yours.
Thank you very much. He was a great guy. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks so much, President.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, give me 1 second. We're going to switch over to... let me see if Fox is covering it, because I'd rather watch Fox than C-SPAN. C-SPAN copyright hit me a long time ago, so I like to avoid them. So let's see. Well, they don't even have it on their like calendar. Yeah, I guess we're watching C-SPAN. C-SPAN. Where is it? Oh, okay, that's a good coincidence. It's starting like right meow. Let's see. Well, it starts in like 7 minutes, but I mean, we'll just... Hold on, what is going on? Why is this? Give me a second. Stupid. So I'm telling you, glitchy. Multi-billion-dollar glitchy ass freaking software here, man. Oh yeah, a lot of hissing, huh? A lot of hissing, very professional. What the hell, dude? Let me see if I can find something with actual audio, dialogue, whatever the hell. Let's see if let me just check Fox real quick. How's everyone doing? Let's close that. Wow, C-SPAN, you guys are something else, huh? No wonder you're copyright striking low-level YouTube channels, huh? You guys are dying, huh? Dying.
It's going to be a price to be paid if you keep doing it. And to try to find out all
let's just watch the Fox coverage of it. Here we go.
Putin, but to end this war so that Ukraine will thrive and survive.
The important things to point out here, Zelensky is at the funeral today. Benjamin Netanyahu is at the funeral today. Netanyahu said the other day that Israel's never had a better friend than Lindsey Graham. And Bill, from your time on the Hill, and we'll get to Aisha's reflections on that next, by the end of the day today, there could be a bill before the Senate that passes that Graham's been pushing that would enact severe restrictions and sanctions on companies and countries if they buy any Russian oil from Vladimir Putin. And that's something that Graham's been pushing hard for. There's also some provisions in there to crack down further on Iran. And if it does pass, and it's expected to, Bill, I would think that this would be a most fitting day for Lindsey Graham on the issues that he has cared about the most and pushed harder than just about any senator in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, to your point, I think he'd be looking down and smiling, right? You could see it going. That's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered, as if that bill were to be able to be passed tonight. The Russian sanctions bill is something, probably the biggest thing he was working on before he passed away. Again, we just played that video of him in Ukraine to penalize those companies that are trying to buy Russian oil. The idea that that's how Russia is evading sanctions and funding this war against Ukraine. If it happens, there's going to be a test vote tonight, a procedural vote. If that's able to get through that hurdle, then they could potentially vote on this thing tomorrow. But to your point, Bill, if they're able to get this done and the Senate is able to do this literally on the day that they're remembering Lindsey Graham, what a way to remember him. And I want to bring Aisha back into this because, to your point, Aisha, you were covering the Hill for years before you went over to the White House. We all have different Lindsey Graham stories. And I thought our colleague Chad Pergram made a good point this morning, which is that when Lindsey Graham spoke, we listened. A lot of the times when we're watching these speeches on the Senate floor, they can be pretty dry and boring, but anytime that Senator Graham got up there to that podium and started talking, we're usually telling our producers, hey guys, let's record this, let's roll on this, because it's probably going to be something good. I remember just doing that a couple months ago during the DHS shutdown when Senator Graham got up there and was talking about sanctuary cities and the need to fund ICE and the need to fund Border Patrol. He got up there and he went off. Aisha, just kind of give us some color on maybe some of your interaction with him back when you were covering the Hill.
He was a heavyweight, Bill. I mean, I think the GOP knows that. The White House knows that they are losing someone that they could count on to turn votes. You know, he wasn't the whip, but in a sense he was, because he could reach across the aisle and convince his Democratic colleagues to vote along with the Republicans. And on this Russia sanctions bill, by the way, he got that done hours before his death. He was able to make that deal right before he died. It's a procedural vote tonight at 6 o'clock. They named it after him. Potentially could run into a hiccup because now they might want to pass Iran sanctions along with it. That might upset a couple of Democrats, but we'll see. If it does pass in the next couple of days, it will be a significant, I think, as a colleague of mine put it, an exclamation point on his career.
Thank you for that, Aisha. We continue to look at the White House here, a live shot where we do expect to see President Trump depart shortly. He will be heading to the National Cathedral there in Washington. He will be offering tributes at the ceremony starting top of the hour, 2 o'clock Eastern time, along with our good friend Sean Hannity. Some notable readers, the Reverend Tony Perkins. We'll hear from the Reverend William Franklin Graham III. All of this coming up as we remember the late South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. We'll be right back.
He was a great man, and for me, really brought me along in a number of ways that I was so grateful for. He allowed me to have a seat at the table in rooms that would have taken me quite some time to open the door myself. So he did that not just for me, but for so many people in the Senate.
There's no place like home. New day.
Hi, guys. Hello, Marion. Good to see ya. Don't mind me. I'm gonna put my chips away. I will keep you all company during commercial breaks. How's everyone doing? Hello, Marion. Marion is from Norway. She's a Viking. Like, how tall are you, by the way, Marion? I bet you're like 7 feet tall. Freaking awesome. Yeah. Erling. Yeah, we love Erling Haaland here. He was so happy that war was fought on Ukrainian soil that could make a war that wouldn't cost American lives and prosperity. Yeah. Well, to be fair, Russia started that one, right? They're like, oh, we want more land. They wanted more, particularly they wanted more seaports. They wanted more, they wanted Odessa. Maybe not Odessa, but they wanted at least the entire Azov Sea. Because, they're very landlocked. Russia's very landlocked. And, Gorbachev giving it all away didn't help it at all, right? But, yeah, I don't know. I've heard of the Azov battalions that wasn't too good to ethnic Russians out there. But, I mean, again, if you wanted to save your fellow Russians, you could have just, brought them back to your country, repatriated them. But, no, instead we're going to go ahead and have a bunch of Russians die to bring them in. And it's like, we're more are dying than we're saving. So how is that helpful? It was never about really saving Russians, in my opinion, as to why Putin started it. But hey, 5'9", gigantic. She could dunk. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could dunk. Maybe on the juniors net, the little 8-footer net. Maybe you could dunk. I don't know. I don't know if you play basketball. Anyways, how's everyone else doing? How's everyone over on Rumble? We're still on commercial break, guys. Don't worry. We will not miss a thing. That is my air conditioning you're hearing in the background. It's very annoying. Hello, Graydon Dean. Hello, Josie. Dixie. Good to see all of you over on this side. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Foxhole people. We got 208 Outdoors. Let's pop this out real quick. There we go. 208 Outdoors. Good to see you. Hello to Ghost Rider, Mad Hat 1, Methol, good to see you, Methol. Sheriff Grady Judge, yeah. Grady Judd, sorry. Are you in Florida, by the way, Methol? Good to see you. Nice to be in here. Ooh, the 9-volt battery on the septum piercing. I didn't think about that. Better than coffee. Jumpstart your morning with a 9-volt DC. Oh, we're back. Here we go.
Of Senator Lindsey Graham. We are now seeing the inside of the National Cathedral. Obviously, this has been the home for the goodbyes to so many prominent Americans, presidents of the United States, and also President George W. Bush's well-remembered speech right after September 11th. So this is a place of history. It's a place of poignancy, and it is the place where we see so many gathering to pay tribute to Lindsey Graham today, including the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Obviously, intense wars over the last several years have brought these two individuals into the main discussions with President Trump over the future of these conflicts. And Lindsey Graham believed deeply that Ukraine needed to have our help. He also talked a lot about the fact that Ukraine just had developed such sophisticated drone technology and had built such an impressive military operation and had lasted longer than anyone imagined they would be able to against Putin. And I think this is something that was very, very important, obviously, to Lindsey Graham. There's Sean Hannity. We're going to hear from him in just a few moments. He was very close to Senator Graham, good friends. Like Brett was saying, you know, there were opportunities for these individuals to play golf together. Of course, there was always a lot of business happening, even in those conversations, about what was important and what they wanted to drive forward. So these are really important gatherings. We see the former Vice President Mike Pence getting an embrace there as well. These are the moments when you bring people together and you think about what you've meant to each other. And that's why, you know, I think that this funeral obviously came too soon. Lindsey Graham was only 71 when he passed away. He had what many expected, a lot of life left to live, but he was taken from us and from this community. There's Reverend Graham, who we're also going to hear from today. You see Secretary Kennedy in the crowd as well, Secretary of War Hegseth. All of these individuals knew Lindsey Graham very well. Let's bring in the former White House press secretary and Fox News contributor, Ari Fleischer, who's joining us as we watch most of the cabinet members here as they enter the cathedral right now, Ari.
Yeah, Martha, when you just said this funeral came too soon, that really touched me. That is exactly right. And then you said he was 71. I thought he was 50. Lindsey just had this vitality. He had this energy, along with his humor and his wit. And what I loved about Lindsey Graham is there was never a problem he met that he did not think he could solve. And he would throw himself into it. The hardest problems, whether it was Ukraine, whether it was peace in the Middle East, Social Security, immigration reform, there was nothing he didn't think he could solve, and he sure worked at it.
Ari, if you go into your bank of knowledge at the moment and think about the current composition of the U.S. Senate, they talk about Lindsey Graham. They talk about a guy who would cross the aisle, who'd figure out a way to get a vote done, et cetera, work with Joe Lieberman, John McCain, all over the years. Many have suggested over the past several days that there's no one like him and no one to replace him in office. I don't know if that's the case, but if you would have to, if you were pressed on this question, who do you think that individual would be?
You know, I do think that is the case. It is because of the energy and the vitality with which he just dove in. He loved moving the pieces on the chessboard. He would figure out, okay, if I do this and they do that and they do this, and he was constantly thinking 3, 4, 5 moves ahead and being funny the entire time he did it. That was what he brought to public service. You know, a lot of people go into office to give speeches. Lindsey gave speeches, but what he did was break his back behind the scenes to get things accomplished, and particularly on foreign policy, particularly in peace in the Middle East. I mean, there was not a head of state that he didn't know and that did not know him. Frankly, that's unusual for a lot of senators, usual for a lot of congressmen. He just, by sheer force of will, energy, determination, and smarts, always had an idea about what the next move should be to accomplish a result. And then he loved working President Trump on it. President Trump was the big chess piece on the board. And Lindsey knew if I have to play golf with him, I'll play golf. If I have to go have a meeting, I'll have a meeting. A phone call, I'll have a phone call. Whatever it took to move those pieces. And by and large, when you look at his career, he was real successful in moving those pieces. Not everything that he touched was successful, and that was because so many of those issues were so big in our society. but I would so much rather have Lindsey working a problem than anybody else because he was so good at it.
Well, we remember him for his service. We remember him for his friendship and his mentorship to so many as we continue to watch the members of the cabinet there file in. Benjamin Netanyahu, an interesting moment where he was face to face with President of Ukraine, Zelensky, a few minutes ago. But they are all in there to honor and remember the great senator from South Carolina. Ted Cruz earlier was talking about how he's remembering Lindsey Graham today. And he was talking about how much he loved the men and women of the military. Ted Cruz says his every waking moment was spent fighting for the men and women of the military and fighting to make this country safer. Because he did also, Ari, bring his military service with him in his service to this country.
He did, and he just looked at that as honor, and I think he led a life of honor in that sense. But, you know, the other thing that he did, Lindsey did, he didn't speak like a politician. When you talked to Lindsey Graham, you were just getting sharp wit and plain speak. He had that way about him. You knew you weren't getting BS or the regular politics talk, rounding off edges. He sharpened edges. He went right for it. I remember in 2018, after Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi Arabian, was killed, Lindsey went crazy. Lindsey blamed Saudi Arabia, said there'd be hell to pay. Then when the intelligence came out that suggested that the Crown Prince was likely involved, Lindsey called the Crown Prince dangerous, and he called the Crown Prince crazy. And then Lindsey became one of Saudi Arabia's best friends, best allies, most influential. And somebody said to Lindsey, what changed? Why did you go from one to the other so fast? And he said, oh, well, the Saudis bought a whole bunch of Boeing airplanes. Boeing, the giant manufacturer in South Carolina. Who talks like that? Lindsey talks like that because he was just so irreverent, so witty, and it did lead to an unbelievable influence that he had on Saudi Arabia that I don't think there was another U.S. senator who was as influential with Saudi Arabia as Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, we're just watching this moment between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. No doubt, these are minutes that these individuals need to grab, want to grab, to sort of have a conversation, even in this environment, about these life and death decisions that are being made when it comes to Iran, when it comes to Israel. And these are things that Senator Graham, I think, would embrace in this moment, that he has brought all of these people together, that these passions of his life, support of Israel, chief among them. And he would, I think, be so honored to see President Zelensky and Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking to each other and spending time with these individuals. You know, I was thinking when you were asking that question a moment ago, I think Bill asked the question about who else shares that kind of passion for the things that he cared about. And, you know, the camera sort of landed on the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, someone that Lindsey Graham admired. His depth of understanding of foreign policy for many years, I think, is something that Senator Graham admired in Marco Rubio. And you look at John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, someone who is also, I think, grounded in a real world view in a very similar way to Lindsey Graham. And you see these other people and these other voices. Both of those individuals, Rubio and Ratcliffe, have that kind of jovial, strong relationship with people, in some cases across the aisle as well, in many cases across the aisle as well. So I think that these are people that he would hope would carry his torch into the coming years. Tim Scott, certainly, of South Carolina, a dear, dear friend of Senator Graham's and someone he admired, really speaks to his Christian faith. And just one last thing I want to mention on the troops. We've talked about these trips overseas that were taken so frequently by Lieberman, McCain, and Graham. They were going to see our troops in places where nobody was visiting them. They said, look, wherever there are American troops serving, we want to show them that we'll go to them. We're going to go to them. We're going to shake their hand. We're going to thank them for their service because we want them to know that the people back home have not forgotten them. And that's the way that Lindsey Graham spent his time. He spent his weekends that way. And I think it's just a very significant thing to remember today.
One of the other faces we've seen in the crowd as we continue to take a look at these live images is Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He is there. You got to wonder how he's feeling today. Again, he might not even have that seat on the Supreme Court if Lindsey Graham hadn't offered such a fervent defense of him. There's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Just a short time ago, we were watching live pictures of him shaking hands with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and Bill Hemmer and I were talking about that's an interesting exchange because we got the news, Bill, earlier this week that Ukraine had actually bombed a ship, an Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea that was heading towards Russia. So as Martha pointed out, there's a lot of conversations happening in this room right now, even given the circumstances that this is going to be a funeral. A lot of face-to-face here where people are getting that one-on-one time. Ari, I want to ask you one other thing, just about the complicated road and relationship that Lindsey Graham had with President Trump. They were very good at the time that he passed, but we remember, a little over 5 years ago after January 6th, at one point, Senator Graham said, quote, "Count me out, enough is enough." They were able to repair that relationship over the years to the point where they were great friends, great allies, and Senator Graham was essentially known as the Trump whisperer. There were few senators who had President Trump's ear the way he did, so much so that if any Senate Republican wanted a message to get to the White House, they could go to Senator Graham. Just talk about how that relationship between the president and Senator Graham kind of changed and evolved since the events 5 years ago.
I think that's one of the most fascinating stories about Lindsey Graham because they were fierce antagonists in the campaign. And what Lindsey did, and this is why he was so effective with Donald Trump in a way that I think is really hard for anybody else to match. Lindsey was blunt with Donald Trump. He would say, "Are you crazy? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard." And then he would keep going. "You can't do that. If you do that, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that." President Trump has a habit of speaking very loud and being the alpha male and not letting anybody else speak when he wants to speak. But when Lindsey would get going, it was hard to stop Lindsey. And he had the president's attention. He had the president's attention because he was so blunt, would say things to him that nobody else had the courage to say. But to Lindsey, it was kind of like a game, and the president knew that. It was never with vindictiveness. It was never to be nasty or mean. It was to be amused. And that's how Lindsey would come across with President Trump. And I think the president got a kick out of how Lindsey did it. That is really the way Lindsey behaved. And I know this because Lindsey would talk stories. And he would describe Trump's reaction to things. And it was just a sight to see Lindsey recounting these things because he got such joy out of it. And that's what I meant about moving chess pieces on a board. To Lindsey, it was, how can I be effective? What does it take? And it starts with President Trump. And boy, the two of them really did hit it off. Here's the president coming to Lindsey's funeral. It's an unbelievable relationship. It's a great lesson to Washington. You don't have to pound a table. You don't have to get the most tweets, but you have to be effective. And I wish everybody in Washington brought that approach to solving problem.
We're about 17 minutes away before the ceremony begins. And Ari, I'll just one-up you on that story. 11 years ago, Lindsey Graham didn't have much time for Donald Trump. He said in an interview on CNN, he said, "You know how to make America great again?" He said, "Tell Donald Trump to go to hell." That was 2015, all right? This past month, 11 years later, when he won his primary race in South Carolina, vanquished 4 or 5 others with about 60% of the vote, he said, "Mr. President, you're not far behind God." So that was the range that Lindsey Graham had. And I was thinking, just in this conversation about Washington moving forward and finding common ground, and obviously Lindsey Graham could find it, but he had his deep convictions. I was looking at John Fetterman in that audience there as well, and here's a guy who's voted 93% of the time with Democrats, all right? But Israel is his red line, and if his party continues to abandon what's happening with the Israeli government and vote against aid to Israel, he says he'll leave the party. I'm not suggesting, Ari, that he would become a Republican. I think at one time, in his own words, he'd be a bad Republican. He used worse language than that, but not suitable for this hour. But he wouldn't make a good Republican. But I think if you look like the current setup for the Senate, for this midterm race, you could be looking at a 50-50 finish. And if John Fetterman were to leave the Democratic Party and become an independent, he would be the most powerful politician in America because of his singular vote. And it hasn't been that way in 25 years, Ari. And I know you were there in 2001. Jim Jeffords, Republican from Vermont, left the party, became an independent, and he used that to his advantage in terms of power in Washington, D.C. So as we look at this possibility down the road, maybe John Fetterman perhaps is a person who would fill that void.
Yeah, I just don't think the Democrats would have the same respect for John Fetterman as Democrats and Republicans have for Lindsey Graham. John Fetterman is a courageous, brave man, very fascinating to watch his career. We'll see what happens with him. He's up for re-election in 2028 if he's going to run or if he gets primaried. Will he run as an independent? Remember, that's what Joe Lieberman in Connecticut did when he was defeated in a Democratic primary. He then ran as an independent and won the Senate seat, kept his Senate seat as an independent. That was kind of one of the early signs of the Democrat Party going far left when they dumped Joe Lieberman. So we don't know. But, you know, on Lindsey, it occurs to me, too, one of the lessons for everybody in Washington is Lindsey lived a life of happiness. Everything he brought to what he did, he brought as a happy guy. He wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He didn't give vitriol toward the opponents. He brought happiness to everybody. And that just exuded from him. I think that's a good lesson to everybody in Washington. You get a lot more done that way. And it was gracious, it was legitimate, it was Lindsey Graham.
Ari, thank you for that. Our coverage will continue as we do look live at the National Cathedral there in Washington, where we know President Trump will be arriving any moment now. He will be eulogizing the late senator, a celebration and thanksgiving for the life of Lindsey Olin Graham, passed away July 11th, 2026. We're going to take a quick break as the president arrives there in Washington. We'll be right back.
Hi guys, how you doing? I'll keep you company during commercial breaks. Hello, Dictum Fictum. Says, who's gonna get special envelopes today? Yeah, that'd be interesting too, right? Got to keep an eye out for them envelopes. Still want to know what they said. You know, I'm surprised no one asked. I'm surprised no one asked Jeb Bush or, you know, or HW's not HW, George W's wife. You know, what was in the envelopes? Like, no one talks about it. You know, no one in the mainstream anyways. Yeah. Ooh, Pence was there? Yeah, I didn't see Pence yet, but boo Pence. Boo. Anywho, how's everyone doing? Hello, Christian Moore. Good to see you, buddy. Hello to the Moore family. Bill Moore, Christian Moore, Doug Moore. And then there's the other guy who also works there and has a membership. Forgot his name. Very sorry, I forgot his name. Wait, there's another dude over there. Anyways, hello guys. Hello, Hilarious 2. He's asking, is Biden and Obama there? That's a good point. I didn't see any of them. They might be on the other side. Might be somewhere in the back. You know? Heyo. Hello to people over on Rumble. We get Amber QC Man. Look at that. Oh, she also says, who's going to get an envelope? Are you Dictum Fictum on YouTube? That's interesting. Same question. Josie, good to see you. Phantom is wearing a suit. Awesome. He wore it for this. He wore it for the State of the Union address for Trump. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to switch. I don't think he'll switch parties, to be really honest with you. He might go independent, and that's about it. Because he still doesn't vote. Like, I'll for example, the confirmation of Jay Clayton, like not the confirmation, but to bring it to the floor. I don't think he voted yes. I watched it live, and I believe it was Fetterman, nay, you know. Anyways, we're back. Here we go.
We believe during the commercial break the beast did arrive, which means the president is making his way inside the National Cathedral. And now the hearse has arrived as well, and we will see the procession of the casket of Lindsey Graham, age 71, longtime senator from South Carolina and a good guy to just about everyone. Earlier today, the chaplain, Barry Black, said he was someone who sought to leave the world better than he found it. There cannot be a higher compliment to anyone on this world today. We will see the casket go in and the procession will begin down the main aisle. And America, you're about to see a beautiful ceremony. The National Cathedral does it so well. And as we get ready for that, I was just thinking about Aisha explaining how beautiful the day is today. And it is. I think we got a bit of a break here in mid to late July. I was at that National Cathedral for George Bush's funeral, 41, in December of 2018. And can I tell you, Sandra and Bill, it was absolutely frozen in D.C. So they picked a good day today in our nation's capital.
It is remarkable to see the number of world leaders who have also gathered there. President Trump's cabinet has been seated. Earlier, we saw the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and also the President of Ukraine, noting that Lindsey Graham was a fierce supporter of Israel and Ukraine. To have both those world leaders come to Washington and step into the National Cathedral and pay their respects. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, called Graham a beloved friend in a social media post. He said Lindsey understood that the security of Israel and America are inseparable. Israel has lost one of its greatest friends, as we do watch those that continue to arrive there in the cathedral. To your point, Bill, we are about to see an incredibly beautiful ceremony. We've got the run of show here for this celebration and Thanksgiving for the life of Lindsey Graham, and it is going to be a beautiful treat. The music all day has just been beautiful. Martha?
Yeah, it is. It's a stunning cathedral and just a special place in American history. The National Cathedral has been home to some of the most significant events in longtime history and recent history. You see the cabinet all assembled here, and you see Ashley and Brett Kavanaugh. Clearly, Lindsey Graham played an important part in their lives at a pivotal moment that we've discussed earlier. It's not a moment they probably like going back to, and they've seen quite a bit of it over the last several weeks as we've watched the after reporting from Lindsey Graham's death. He was also, just worth pointing out, he had just turned 71. He was born on July 9th, 1955. He was, by all of our standards these days, very young to be taken. And I watched Sean Hannity's interview with Darlene, who really is just such a testament to his life when you think about it. In many ways, you need only look at Darlene to see the man that Lindsey Graham was, because he dropped everything to raise her. When their second parent died, he ran to her and gave her a hug, by her own description, and said, don't worry about anything. I'm going to take care of you. And he did. He did. So let's watch this moment as the casket is removed from the hearse, as Lindsey Graham will be taken into National Cathedral for his funeral.
you guys see that, but you see at the very bottom, damn it, he scrolled away. Someone dropped something. I don't know if you guys saw that. Here, let me rewind just a little bit. At about like here, I think this guy right here dropped something, and you can see on the ground. Right there, see it? Dropped it. And then you'll see it reappear. It's behind this thing here, but when they pan upwards, you see it appear at the very bottom right there. See, there it is at the very bottom right there, under the word Lindsay. I don't know what that is. Something cylindrical. Anyways, let's go back to live.
With faith in Jesus Christ, we receive the body of our brother, Lindsay Olin Graham, for burial. Let us pray with confidence to God, the giver of life, that he will raise him to perfection in the company of the saints. Deliver your servant Lindsay, O sovereign Lord Christ, from all evil, and set him free from every bond, that he may rest with all your saints in the eternal habitations, where with the Father and the Holy Spirit you live and reign, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Let us also pray for all who mourn, that they may cast their care on God and know the consolation of his love. Almighty God, look with pity upon the sorrows of your servants for whom we pray. Remember them, Lord, in mercy. Nourish them in patience. Comfort them with a sense of your goodness. Lift up your countenance upon them and give them peace through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Amen.
I am resurrection and I am life, says the Lord. Whoever has faith in me shall have life, even though he die. And everyone who has life and has committed himself to me in faith shall not die forever. As for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. After my awaking, he will raise me up, and in my body I shall see God. I myself shall see, and my eyes behold him, who is my friend and not a stranger. For none of us has life in himself, and none becomes his own master when he dies. For if we have life, we are alive in the Lord. And if we die in the Lord. So then, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's possession. Happy from now on are those who die in the Lord. So it is, says the Spirit, for they rest from their labors. Good morning and welcome to Washington National Cathedral. My name is Randy Hollerith. I'm the Dean of the Cathedral, and on behalf of all of us who serve God in this place, please know that we are a house of prayer for all people, and you are always welcome here. Today we bid farewell to a man much beloved by many, and I know it means a great deal to Senator Darlene Graham and to the entire Graham family to have all of you here today. Lindsey Graham was a man of faith, a longtime public servant who devoted his life to this country and to his cherished South Carolina. His untimely death leaves a void in both places, and we gather this afternoon to honor his life and commend his soul to God in firm and abiding faith that he now rests in the life hereafter. Let us pray today that God's love and peace may abide with him this day and forevermore. Now would you join with me as we give praise to God and sing How Great Thou Art.
Thank you very much. Vice President Vance, members of the Cabinet, members of the House and Senate, distinguished guests, Darlene, and the entire Graham family. We love you all. Today we gather in the deepest gratitude and profoundest sorrow to honor a beloved friend, a devoted brother, a respected statesman, a giant of the United States Senate, and a true American original who left us much too soon. And that can only be the one and only Lindsey Graham. By the strength of his steadfast convictions, the force of his magnetic personality, and the goodness of his noble soul, Lindsey rose from a small town in rural South Carolina, a place he loved so much, to become a constant fixture of American politics at the highest level, and a force to be reckoned with all over the world. For more than 30 years, nothing of consequence happened in this capital without Lindsey Graham knowing about it. Nothing of significance happened anywhere in the world without Lindsey Graham having a view on it. And no bill became law in the most exceptional republic in human history without Lindsey Graham having a say in it. He was a man who gave America the full measure of his good and mighty heart until that heart itself just gave out. But even though Lindsey's life was cut short while he was still so full of vim and vigor, there can be no doubt that he lived absolutely to the fullest. He died doing the work he was born to do. He was truly a great politician, serving the country he loved to serve so deeply. He went out at the peak of his career, at the top of his game, as a legend that every one of us, many of us here today, are blessed to know him, and a friend that none of us will ever forget. There was truly nobody like Lindsey Graham. It was his hometown of Central South Carolina that Lindsey first learned the art of politics. His parents ran a bar and pool hall on Main Street with a room in the back where the family spent and had to do. As Lindsey said, his father taught him the key to being a successful bar owner is that you have to be funny enough that people will keep coming back, and that you have to be tough enough that you can stay in business and thrive. A very difficult combination. For his entire storied career, that's exactly who Lindsey Graham was. He was the first person to make you laugh, and one of the last people that you've really ever wanted to fight. These were the traits that made him into one of the great figures in Senate history. Few like him. As a boy, Lindsey also learned his first lessons in diplomacy when the wife of one regular patron called the bar asking for her husband. She demanded to know, where is he? The man instructed Lindsey, tell her I'm not here. And young Lindsey nodded and said into the phone to the wife, he said to tell you that he's not here. That was Lindsey. When Lindsey was just 20 years old, he lost his mom to cancer. 15 months later, he lost his dad. Their deaths left his 13-year-old sister, Darlene, an orphan. But in God's mercy, she had her wonderful brother to take care of her. On top of it all, Lindsey became her guardian while still in college and helped raise her. He later said that for all his achievements, and he had many, his single proudest accomplishment in life was how well Darlene turned out. He had total respect and love for Darlene. Nothing could be more fitting than that woman who was Lindsey's proudest legacy now continues his legacy of service in the U.S. Senate, a place that he cherished. And I have no doubt that he's looking down today, beaming with pride at his sister, Senator Darlene Graham. Thank you, Senator. Lindsey first stormed into Washington with the Republican Revolution of 1994, becoming the first Republican to win his House district in 120 years. That was Lindsey. In 2002, he ran for the Senate in what should have been a loss, and he swept to an easy victory. Lindsey quickly became a master at maneuvering in one of the world's great legislative bodies. He secured record funding for our military as a budget committee chairman. He delivered the largest investment in border security in history, and last year he shepherded the passage of the largest tax cuts in American history, the great, big, beautiful bill. Had a lot of Lindsey goodies in there, too, I can tell you. And, of course, he was also a great champion of the United States Supreme Court. His impassioned defense of a wonderful person, a great gentleman, Justice Kavanaugh, ended a disgraceful attack on this very good man and gave us one of the greatest moments the Senate has ever seen. It was a truly monumental moment in Senate history. I believe it was Lindsey's perhaps finest hour. But no matter how heated things got in Washington, virtually everyone, Republican or Democrat, liked Lindsey. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. Not everybody. He was a tough cookie, okay? I have to veer from this for a second. He was a tough cookie, Darlene, but he was beautiful. But he was also ready with a joke and a gleam in his eye. After being lectured on the excruciating details of patent law by a fellow senator during a flight, Lindsey declared that he had discovered a new form of enhanced interrogation and torture for the Guantanamo Bay area. He said, this is really bad stuff and boring. And while he was an incredibly hard worker, he was not exactly an early riser, as many of you know. When Senator Tim Scott, a great gentleman in his own right, I can tell you, invited him to prayer breakfast at 8:30 a.m., Lindsey told him, Tim, if Jesus himself comes back before 10 a.m., I ain't going. Yet, while he was always quick to laugh and no one ever doubted the gravity of his mission, above all, Lindsey Graham believed in a strong America. He wanted a strong America. He had unwavering faith in the righteousness of American power and prayer. And he was extremely hawkish. I will tell you, he never saw a war that he didn't like. Only his true friends would understand that, but he wanted it for the good of our country. He felt in his bones that our destiny is to win, and that his job was to do everything he could to ensure our enemies would lose. It was this conviction that led him to serve 33 years in uniform in the Air Force and Air Force Reserves and Air National Guard, even while he was in office. And it was this conviction that took him as a senator to almost every country on earth, confronting America's adversaries and standing up for America's friends. He had tremendous friendships all over the world. It's a testament to his towering impact that among those mourning him here today are leaders, presidents, prime ministers from all over the globe. They're sitting right here before you. Lindsey met countless world leaders, yet wherever he went, he was always the same Lindsey Graham. When he met Libyan dictator Omar Gaddafi in a tent in the desert, he told him, I expected something out of the Arabian Nights. This looks more like a Winnebago. That was not a good statement to make at the time. And when he met the Dalai Lama, Lindsey looked him straight in the eyes and said, so, can you really levitate? The Dalai Lama was not happy with that. But no matter how high he rose, he never forgot where he came from. There's probably not a single town in South Carolina where Lindsey did not help repair a bridge, expand a school, improve a hospital, or recover from a disaster. He was a force of nature, and I will miss him greatly. greatly. As you remember, Lindsay and I did not exactly get off to the best of starts. Running against each other, back in 2016, Lindsay said something rather nasty on his flight to becoming the next president of the United States. So naturally, I did something that I shouldn't have done. I shared his personal cell phone number with the millions of people that happened to be watching that particular day as I made a speech, a very important speech. And I remember the number 202-228-0292 if anybody wants to give it a shot. His phone exploded. He said, I had that number for 20 years. His phone totally, I don't know what he did with it, but it exploded. That was the beginning of a friendship in a way. But it was Lindsay who had the last laugh, because while I blew up his phone for one day, we became great friends, and Lindsay did not stop calling me for the next 10 years. It was not easy. I always cherish the memories of our golf games, and only because of his really, and I will say, this memorial service, it's so hard to say. A memorial service for Lindsay, it's hard to say. But I'll admit that one time Lindsey Graham and Annika Sorensen actually beat me and Gary Player together. Can you believe that? Annika played very well that day, actually. But right to the end, Lindsey carried in his golf bag the putter that once belonged to his dad, and he carried it with him with class and with a ring that was so beautiful of his mother. And they were laying right at his bedside. The night he died, they were there. He had him with him at all times. From that pool hall where his parents raised him to the halls of the United States Senate, where he was respected and loved, the son of South Carolina became one of the most important men in the most important country on earth. In a city where politicians often become jaded and cynical, Lindsey Graham never lost the old-fashioned American idealism that brought him to the highest levels of government and life. He took his duty seriously without taking himself too seriously. He was unwavering in his principles, but always willing to listen. He always wanted to listen. And one thing about Lindsey that we all know, he never quit. You wanted him to quit, you waited for him to quit, but he would never quit. Above all, Lindsey Graham loved America, and he believed in the American people. If you shared that view, you had a friend in Lindsey. If you didn't share it, there was no fiercer or more constant opponent. Our nation needs more men and women like that great person sitting, laying, wherever he may be. I think I know where he is, and I think he's up there. I think he's watching us. I'm pretty sure of it. Scripture tells us that blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life. For 71 years, Lindsey Graham was strong and steadfast. As a brother, a senator, a warrior, and a patriot, he withstood every last test, every single test that you can go through, and every trial. And now he wears the crown of life in heaven, reunited with his parents and reunited with his Lord. I end by saying something very, very special. Lindsey, we love you. God bless you. We will always be with you, and you were very, very special. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, I am going to end the feed now, okay? If you want to watch, you know where to go. I think he is streaming this on his White House channel on YouTube. But yeah, I gotta go. I gotta edit. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.